Buffalo, we need to talk. Because what I'm about to tell you is going to make your blood boil. And it should. For 5 years, this city has watched Josh Allen turn himself into a human highlight reel every single January, dragging a football team on his back through blizzards, through heartbreak, through some of the cruelest endings in NFL playoff history. And for 5 years, everybody, and I mean everybody, has pointed the finger at him. Was it his fault? Should he have done more? Could he have made one more throw? Meanwhile, the real culprit has been standing right there on the sideline the entire time, wearing a headset, cashing a paycheck, and doing absolutely nothing when it mattered most. I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills defense. And today, we are dragging every single receipt out into the light. Let's start with the number that should be tattooed on the wall of every Bills fan's living room. During the regular season over the last 5 years, Buffalo's pass rush has been genuinely elite. We're talking almost a 7% sack rate. 7th best in the entire National Football League. That's not a mediocre defense. That's a defense that, on paper, should be feared. But then January arrives. The lights get brighter, the stakes get higher, and suddenly that same pass rush completely vanishes into thin air. In the playoff losses over that same 5-year stretch, the sack rate craters all the way down to roughly 2.5%. Read that again. A unit that terrorizes quarterbacks all season long turns into a group of ghosts the second the calendar flips to the postseason. And if you think that's a coincidence, wait until you hear what happened last year in Denver. Bo Nix, a young quarterback, not even a proven postseason killer, dropped back to pass 46 times against this Buffalo defense. 46 attempts. And do you know how many times he hit the ground? 0, not 1 sack. 46 chances to get to the quarterback, and the Bills' defense came up empty every single time. You cannot, and I mean cannot, call yourself a championship-caliber unit if you let a game manager sit in the pocket like he's got a lazy boy recliner back there. This is the story nobody wants to tell because it's so much easier to just point at Josh Allen and ask what he could have done differently. But the tape doesn't lie, and the tape says the quarterback has been doing more than enough. Now let's rewind and relive the horror show, because if you're a Bills fan, you already know these moments by heart, even if it hurts every time. 2021, the instant classic. Gabe Davis, a name that will live in Buffalo folklore forever, scores 4 touchdowns in a single game. 4, most receivers dream about that kind of night once in a career, and Davis delivered it on the biggest stage imaginable. And it still, somehow, was not enough, because on the other sideline stood Patrick Mahomes, and Mahomes did what Mahomes does. He marched his offense down the field in 13 seconds. 13 seconds. Enough time to tie the game and send it to overtime where Kansas City would eventually walk away victorious. Bills fans still talk about those 13 seconds like a horror movie they can't stop rewatching. Then fast forward to the 2024 AFC title game. Josh Allen once again refuses to let this team die quietly. He leads a furious double-digit comeback, clawing his way back into a game that looked lost. But with the season on the line, trailing late, facing 4th down at the 2-minute warning, Allen heaves a desperate pass toward Dalton Kincaid. It falls incomplete. Game over. Season over. Another year, another gut punch. And if you're keeping score at home, that means the Kansas City Chiefs have now eliminated the Buffalo Bills from the playoffs 4 separate times in a 5-season span. 4 times. It is almost biblical at this point, like some kind of curse written into the sky above Highmark Stadium. And then, just when Bills fans thought maybe, just maybe, the road to the Super Bowl might not run through Arrowhead this time, along came Denver. Last season, despite battling through 5 turnovers and a controversial interception call that had the entire fan base screaming at their televisions, Buffalo somehow, someway forced overtime. For a moment, hope flickered. And then it was extinguished again. Same story, different opponent. The Bills fell short, yet again. Here's the part that should really make you angry. Buffalo has now won a playoff game in 6 consecutive years. Let that sink in for a second, because on the surface that sounds impressive. It sounds like sustained excellence. But dig a little deeper and the history books reveal something brutal. That specific feat, winning a playoff game 6 years running, has only happened 3 other times in the entire Super Bowl era. And every single one of those 3 teams went on to win 3 championships. 3 Super Bowls each. The Buffalo Bills, despite matching that historic consistency, have not appeared in a single Super Bowl during this run. Not one. That is the definition of getting agonizingly close and having the door slammed shut over and over and over again. So now the question becomes, what actually changes this time? And the answer might not be about adding a superstar free agent or drafting the next unstoppable pass rusher. The answer might be schematic. Enter Jim Leonhard, the brand new defensive coordinator brought in to replace Sean McDermott's old defensive structure. Understand what Buffalo has been running for years. Under McDermott, it was almost always a 4-man rush with zone coverage sitting behind it. Simple, predictable, bread-and-butter football that worked fine in October but got picked apart when elite quarterbacks had weeks to prepare and film to study. Jim Leonhard comes from a completely different school of thought. He's got a college background rooted in simulated pressures, disguised blitzes, and the ability to manufacture chaos from angles offensive lines simply are not used to seeing. And here's the kicker. He just spent the last 2 seasons in Denver working under Vance Joseph, a defensive mind who is absolutely notorious for sending the house, especially when the postseason rolls around. If there is one single domino that could finally tip this Buffalo team over the edge and into a Super Bowl, it might be Jim Leonhard unleashing an aggressive, unpredictable, blitz-heavy scheme that finally gives Josh Allen some backup. Because here's the truth Bills fans have needed to hear for years. Josh Allen has already done enough. His own teammates are starting to say it out loud too. Star offensive tackle Deion Dawkins has publicly suggested that other pieces of this roster need to step up and stop putting the entire burden on their quarterback's shoulders. And honestly, it's about time somebody said it. Every single postseason exit gets dissected as a referendum on what Josh Allen should have done differently, while the defense quietly walks away from the tape session untouched, both figuratively and, based on that Denver game, quite literally. Now let's talk about the man Buffalo brought in to try and fix the pass rush problem before, because this isn't the first time the front office has tried to solve this exact issue. Von Miller arrived in Buffalo as the big splashy addition, the proven championship pedigree signing that was supposed to finally give this defense a killer instinct in January. It did not land the way anyone hoped. Then last season, Joey Bosa was the next attempt at a fix. And what will Bills fans remember most from Bosa's postseason contribution? Not a strip sack, not a game-changing pressure, a brutal momentum-killing roughing the passer penalty in overtime during that Denver collapse. So now the pressure shifts to the next wave. Names like Gregory Rousseau and Ed Oliver are being asked to become the difference makers this franchise has been searching for since the Von Miller experiment fell apart. Whoever steps up in 2026, the mandate is simple. Somebody has to close. But here's where this story takes an unexpected turn, and it's the part of this video you really don't want to miss. While everybody is focused on fixing the defense, whispers are starting to circulate about a veteran name who could quietly reshape the offense too. Keenan Allen. Now hold on, before anybody runs off to write a breaking news headline, let's be crystal clear about something important. Keenan Allen has not signed with the Buffalo Bills. There is no confirmed visit. There is no reported offer sitting on the table. There is no verified negotiation happening between his camp and the Bills' front office. This is a hypothetical conversation, a what-if scenario worth exploring because of what Keenan Allen represents as a player not a rumor being reported as fact. So let's dig into why his name is even being whispered in the same breath as this Buffalo roster. On the surface, you might think the Bills' receiver room is already crowded, and you'd be right to think that. DJ Moore gives this offense a legitimate proven outside threat. Khalil Shakir has built real chemistry with Josh Allen, understanding exactly how to find soft spots in a defense and stay connected on scramble drills. Keon Coleman still has all the physical tools to become a major factor as he continues to develop. Joshua Palmer brings experience and depth, and there are younger options in that room fighting for real roles too. So why on earth would Buffalo even consider adding another veteran receiver into that mix? Because playoff football isn't just about who can run the fastest 40-yard dash. It's about who can solve pressure before pressure destroys the entire play. And that is exactly where Keenan Allen has built an entire career. He's not winning with blazing top-end speed at this stage. He's winning with releases, with leverage, with timing that has been sharpened over more than a decade in this league. He understands exactly where a defense is vulnerable before the ball is even snapped. He doesn't need to run past a cornerback to get open. He can work out of the slot, settle comfortably into soft spots in zone coverage, and give a quarterback a reliable answer the instant chaos breaks out around him. Picture this scenario for a second. 3rd and 6, deep into a January game against Kansas City. The Chiefs disguise their pressure look, trying to bait Josh Allen into a mistake. In years past, that disguised blitz has led to a sack, a hurried incompletion, a drive-killing moment. But now imagine Allen recognizing the look immediately, and instead of holding onto the ball a beat too long waiting for something to develop deep down the field, he already has a trusted veteran breaking into open space right in front of him. Quick catch, instant first down, drive stays alive. Patrick Mahomes stays on the sideline for one more possession. That is not the flashy, jaw-dropping addition people typically dream about when a new receiver's name gets floated. But it might be exactly the kind of steady, grown-up answer this offense has been missing in the biggest moments. Of course, there are real concerns here, and we're not going to pretend otherwise. Keenan Allen isn't a young player anymore, and Buffalo certainly cannot and should not pay for the version of him that existed 5 years ago. Any potential move would need to come with a clear understanding of what he still has left physically at this stage of his career. It would need a clearly defined role so he isn't stepping on the development of Moore, Shakir, or Coleman. And financially, it would need to be responsible. A short-term deal, limited guaranteed money, incentives tied directly to availability and production, not a blank check based purely on name recognition and a URSUM from years past. But if he's healthy, if the price is right, and if he's genuinely willing to embrace a situational chain-moving role for a team that is legitimately built to contend. This is at least worth studying by the front office. Because let's be honest with ourselves. This is not a normal season for the Buffalo Bills. This isn't a rebuilding year. This isn't a young team still finding its identity. Joe Brady doesn't get the luxury of easing into his first year as head coach with low expectations. Jim Leonard doesn't get to hide behind a great regular season sack rate if that same pass rush disappears again in January. 14 regular season wins will mean absolutely nothing if the story ends the exact same way it has ended 5 years running. The defense has to hit the quarterback when it matters. The offense has to give Josh Allen faster, easier answers when the pressure inevitably arrives. And the front office has to genuinely investigate every realistic move, no matter how unconventional it might sound at first, that could finally push this team over the top. Would Keenan Allen single-handedly fix a broken pass rush? No. Would he erase the memory of that 13-second drive that still haunts this fan base? No. Would signing him guarantee a Super Bowl parade down Main Street? Absolutely not. But hypothetically, he could be one more trusted, savvy, situational weapon that Josh Allen can turn to when an entire season comes down to a single fourth down play. So Bills Mafia, here's what we want to know from you. Should Buffalo actually explore a low-risk, prove-it deal for a veteran like Keenan Allen, or is that receiver room already crowded enough without him? And be brutally honest with yourselves down in the comments. After everything we just walked through, is the pass rush still the single biggest reason this team hasn't broken through to a Super Bowl? Drop your take in the comments right now, because we read every single one of them. If this video fired you up even half as much as researching it fired us up, smash that like button before you go. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into Buffalo Bills news, rumors, and the honest reactions this fan base deserves. We'll see you in the next one.